Hello, my name is Steve Bowler, and welcome to the Introduction to GitHub video. In this video, we're going to explain what GitHub is, why we are using GitHub, how to use GitHub to access certain files, and we're going to explain the difference between a private and public repository, what a repository is, and we're going to show you how we are going to be using GitHub with our YouTube channel. So GitHub is used to store files and code. Simply put, it allows for real-time collaboration of files and code between users. So a lot of companies, a lot of people use it for version control, etc. So what we are going to be using GitHub for at Bowler CBT Labs is we're going to be using it to store device configurations, and we're going to provide a link to the repository or the repo in all of our video descriptions. So the repo will also hold a step-by-step guide so that the user or the viewer can follow us while we perform the lab. This will allow for a more streamlined and interactive user experience. So let's go to the GitHub website. You can see we have an option to sign in and to sign up. Sign up is pretty simple and straightforward. You just put in your email address, and then you have a couple of steps after that where you have to verify your email, and then you will basically have access to GitHub. So I'm already signed in here. And so in this, when I sign in, it takes me to basically a landing point where I can create repositories. And I've already got 10 inside of this account. And a repository is simply a place for me to put files and folders. So I can click on New Repository, and then I can give it a name. Let's just call it Test. I can give it a description. This is a test repo. And then I have the option to make it private or public. So I'll show you the difference between those. A private repo allows only a certain amount of people that I give access to. It only allows those people to view the repository and the contents, whereas a public repository allows everybody. And so that's what I'm going to be creating for a link to those repos to put those in all of the YouTube videos. And then you can create a README file when you create your repo. So as you can see, this is what a simple repository looks like. You can go ahead and edit that. You can put different lines in here. You can rename your README file, and then you can add more files if you'd like and change the settings. So as of right now, if we scroll to the bottom, you can see that this repository is private. So if I try to go to this repository, if I'm not logged in, then it will not let me. So I'm going to show you what that looks like here in a minute. So if I go back to the main page and go to repositories, you can see that I now have 11, and you can see the test repository that I just created. So pretty easy to create new repos, and they're very powerful. So let's go ahead, and I'm going to show you an example of one of the labs. This is Juniper vLab's lab number 1. I put this out on the YouTube channel just a couple of days ago. And as you can see in the description, I have access to a GitHub repository. So if I click on this, it's going to open up, and this is where I have just a simple explanation of the vLab's Lab 1. So in this in this repo, if we click on it, if we go back to our repos, what we can see is that there was only a README file in there. But for other repositories, if we click on vLab's lab number 2, you can see that I have multiple files listed. So what we're going to include, let's go back to the introduction. What we're going to include in these repositories is going to be the README file, which is going to be just the basic description of the lab and what the lab is going to be providing. Then we're also going to provide you with a step-by-step guide, and this guide is going to be all of the configuration steps. So an interactive way for the user or the viewer to follow along and to do every single action step by step. So you can follow along and perform the commands as we are configuring the devices. We will also provide the full final configuration for you to look at and an initial device configurations with step-by-step guide on how to get to the initial point of all of the videos. So this is one of the reasons why we're using GitHub, so we can provide you with a more streamlined and interactive experience. And we will be using GitHub during the videos to show you what we are doing step by step. So let's go back to Juniper vLabs 1, that repository. And what I'm just going to show you here to end the video is just how to change a repository from public to private. You can see that it shows public. If we click on the repo and we go to the settings, we scroll to the very bottom, and then we're going to change the visibility from public to private. And then we'll go back to the video, the YouTube video, and show you what happens. Okay, if we go down, we can see now that the visibility is private. If we go back to the YouTube video and we click on the link, it's still showing up. So the reason that it's still showing up, access into the repo, is because I'm still logged in. So now I just need to go to a different browser. And if I click on the link from a different browser, one in which I'm not logged into GitHub, this should give me a 404 error. So that's what it looks like when you set it to private and you don't have access to the repo. So that's it. I just wanted to give you guys a brief introduction into GitHub and explain what it is, why we are going to be using it at Bowler CBT Labs, and what we're going to be using it for to provide content, more content to our viewers and users. and then just provide you with an explanation on private versus public repos. So thank you guys, and I hope to see you guys in the next video.